Hello, hello.
Hey Andy, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Brian?
Not too bad. I just had a move recently and I'm on a slightly different time zone, but I'm excited to talk markets after a very interesting start to May, huh?
Wow. Well, congratulations. Well, first of all, congratulations on the move. Um, oh, so so you're in a different time zone now. Okay, so might be easier between us.
Yeah, it probably is. It's actually much more late in the evening now, so we can talk about potentially moving the time going into the next one if you want. Or
Okay,
we can
okay,
keep it as is. I don't have too strong of a preference.
okay. Well, fantastic. Well, look, welcome again to those tuning in. I'm Andrew, and we have Brian from Santiment. Over here right now, it's Thursday. Well, by the time you watch this, it'll be Thursday, the May 8th. And the last time we had this call was maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I think. And so since then, I guess Bitcoin's moved a bit. I think we hit 97,000, and then we met with some resistance. And then before jumping on, I quickly jumped on to check out the latest headlines that may affect crypto, and it seems that the stablecoin market cap in totality has topped a record 220 billion. So I guess that signals liquidity, coming back into the space. And I guess the other one that's to note is that New Hampshire is the first U.S. state to allow its treasury to actually invest in crypto. Anything with a market cap of 500 billion and above. These are all very positive. Um, well, pretty positive to me. Headlines that I've read. So yeah. So what else is happening in this space, Brian?
Yeah, great points about the mainstream adoption. That's always a great long-term sign. And I know traders, especially holders who are kind of in it for the long run, years instead of months and weeks. Every headline like the one you just gave is a step in the right direction for, not just cryptocurrency to be more prevalent throughout the country, but also, or not the country, the world, I should say, but also a sign that the prices will likely rise at some point, given enough patience. Um, as for the short-term traders, it's a much different story because we have all sorts of macroeconomic stuff and political stuff getting in the way right now. It hasn't stopped Bitcoin from knocking on the door of 100K again, which clearly caught a ton of people off guard. But there's still, cogs in Trump's wheel here that are preventing his dream from coming true of lower interest rates, sky high cryptocurrency prices, because he's very publicly admitted that he's invested in the future of crypto and has a public address himself. So there's many things going on at the same time right now, and we're kind of watching how the short term sentiment has turned from fearful to optimistic. It's not euphoric, but the crowd is definitely showing some mild signs of greed, which is understandable because we saw this huge turnaround right around April 16th, that second half of April when it started. Markets immediately started to blast off.
Oh yeah. And yeah, on that note, I think on the other side of news, or while certain parts are optimistic about crypto, I also read in the headlines that UK has banned credit card crypto purchases. Kuwait has cracked down on crypto mining because due to energy concerns. And I think um, there's a bit of controversy, I guess, as you mentioned, with Trump's involvement with crypto and his family's involvement in crypto. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. I mean, obviously, I'm in the center of it here in the U.S., but where you are in Malaysia and what you're seeing throughout the world and East Asia. Do you think there's a bit of like retaliation and kind of a backlash to crypto because they know that Trump is pro-crypto? Do you think that might be something?
I mean, this is just my personal opinion and an observation. I think there might be some sentiment, slightly negative sentiment towards the US dollar. I guess in a way of protest, I guess, for the Trump tariffs. But at the same time, I think the crypto or digital assets space, especially in the regulated space, is increasing. So just yesterday or day before, I was reading on our regulator's website where they have put out a call for public opinion on using what they call DLT, so digital ledger technology. Digital ledger technology, or the blockchain, to issue capital markets products such as bonds, securities. So they wanted the public to provide their opinion on that. So and there was so I read through it briefly, and there was a clear distinction between what we know as crypto, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all that, and digitalized capital market products. So if anything, it's still they would like to know the public's opinion on issuing these on chain. I think that's a move. That's a positive move towards, I guess, crypto as a whole, because that's the whole, I guess, reason for crypto. The fact that you can more efficiently and freely move value across the internet. So I think I think there might be some negative sentiment towards the US dollar, but at the same time, there's also positivity towards, or at least a drive towards using, blockchains or crypto as rails for transfer of value.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I think crypto is still probably headed for a strong direction. Whether or not, the president where I live is contributing to it positively or not remains to be seen. He certainly talks it up and is making actions to open the floodgates more and make crypto more and more mainstream. It seems like almost every week, but I think, with the trade wars ongoing, especially the China battle going on, it just makes cooperation in general a lot more difficult. And crypto is supposed to kind of cut through that because it's a worldwide phenomenon and it's based on the community and the users around the world. It doesn't matter if the political leaders are involved in it. But to an extent, there's still worries of retaliation personally, and there's worries obviously from the community too. We function primarily on X, and X is they tend to be a bit more pro-Trump than most social networks. So we see a lot of positivity, but when I go elsewhere, I see a lot more backlash to every action he's making. Whether it's crypto related or not, I'm sure that's no secret to the rest of the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly been a talking point in the headlines of late, and I think you're bound to see both sides. There's going to be those who are pro and those who aren't too happy with it. So, but it is what it is, and we remain neutral always because our job is to remain neutral and to observe and report what's happening in the market.
Absolutely. And we should take a look at some metrics. We've got 20 minutes or so to look at some of the primary metrics that are kind of driving markets the way they're moving right now. And obviously we kind of got to where we did on this big rebound on the backs of fear. I think we talked about this a little bit, a few weeks ago when we last did this. People were very, very down in the dumps about these tariffs and expecting a bloodbath, because once the bloodbath starts, people just assume it's not going to shut off anytime soon. And then they're just flabbergasted when it does get shut off. So now we've gone from people who have sold when we were in the high 70Ks, referring to Bitcoin's price, and now they're buying back in after it crossed back above 90, 95K. And you can see over the past week, it's actually up about 3%, just crossing 98K a few hours before this call. Ethereum up. Most assets, especially if we go back 30 days, they look great still. I mean, it's like the crash never happened. Granted, the bottom was right around April 9th. Today's May 7th. So it's almost exactly 30 days since the bottom. So of course they're going to look green. But even prior to that, before the tariffs were announced, crypto was doing pretty well in late March. And yes, it got hammered by tariffs, just like everything did, but it didn't quite get hurt to the point of many stocks out there. And it was actually still holding up so well that many referred to crypto as going through a decoupling state. And decoupling was actually trending on our platform here, where we have trending words and we have the top keywords that are currently circulating. We saw decouple, decoupling, resilient, all sorts of positive words like that. And of course, some did get flushed, but my point is crypto held up pretty well when all was said and done throughout April. Knock on wood, the tariffs have not gone away, so anything can still happen. But the initial reaction was such a bloodbath in the stock market. And I think people seeing how crypto stayed strong, it was pretty resilient. That was a good sign, and actually brought more people in from what I've seen.
Yeah. I think you brought up a really good point. When the stock market was really crashing hard, the Bitcoin, crypto remained pretty strong. I mean, it was it held up pretty well. Yeah,
I mean, you can see Sweet here up 65% in the past 30 days. Verum up more than 2x. What is this? Hyperliquid nearing 2x over the past 30 days. BitTensor up 77%. Many big stories. Shiba, Bitcoin, some meme coins really started to rocket in the third week of April and kind of continued until the end of April. But yeah, we're in a spot where now we've gone from, is Bitcoin going to crash all the way below 50K to get the confetti ready for 100K again. It's funny how quickly things change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I pulled up, as we always want to at least do a quick check, I pulled up whale behavior. The 10 or more wallets continue to accumulate, only here in late February through what looks like about early March. This was the only time they were really dumping, but since early March, they're just resuming, grabbing up all the loose Bitcoin that smaller traders have been dropping during this crazy volatility we had. And more importantly, I'm watching this line here, which is more like the key smart money wallets between 10 all the way to 10,000 BTC held. And of course, that's many exchange addresses in there. But for the most part, this has shown a pretty good accuracy on where markets go next. And we can actually see a little bit of a mild bearish divergence, which leads me to believe we might see one more correction before we hit 100K. Could be a relatively short one, but you can see the lines I'm drawing here. The green bars are the price. So price has been rising, but the amount held since April 24th, basically 2 weeks ago, it's actually been dropping during that time. So that's what's known as a bearish divergence, where we see Bitcoin up 3.5%, but the key smart money have dropped about 20.6K total BTC during that time. So not a doomsday signal by any means, but just a sign that there is some profit taking going as prices have been rising, among the wallets that control markets the most.
That's well, that's healthy, right? I mean, a bit of profit taking is healthy.
Exactly. They've done it many times before, and we've seen, markets hold up pretty well. So what we don't want to see is a long sustained dump like we saw back here. And we saw how prices just really struggled to keep up without the strength of those key stakeholders who usually are the ones pushing up prices. Mm-hmm. So another thing I wanted to show here is the positive versus negative commentary among the top 3 non-stable coins out there. We've got Bitcoin in red, Ethereum in yellow, XRP in blue. Bitcoin here is sitting right in the middle. You can see how they got super euphoric here right around May 7th. And eventually, we did see a top and then a minor crash that scared some people. You can see this faint red line showing they were actually here after it dropped the most negative we had seen in about, call it only 3 days or so. But basically, if I drew a line, we call this the neutral point or so. Of course, I'm just eyeballing it. But if you're below here, maybe a slight negative bias compared to normal. If you're above, slight positive bias. And this is only for Bitcoin because they're all on different axes. But basically, they got euphoric here, and then 3 straight days now of slight negativity according to positive versus negative commentary. So that's not bad. That's actually a good sign that people aren't euphoric right now. Ethereum, though, this is really interesting. The ratio of their comments are at their lowest point since just about a month ago. And this was actually a pretty decent point for Ethereum back then. Ethereum could actually be a very good short-term buy if Bitcoin holds up because people are really, really scoffing at it. It's underperformed for so long that traders have kind of wrote it off and jumped onto the latest meme coin trends or consolidated back to Bitcoin or even just jumped out of crypto altogether because they're so frustrated with Ethereum. And usually that's a positive sign for future price performance. So I like to see that.
Well, that's interesting. Also, I which I gleaned from the headlines that Ethereum's Pictra upgrade just went live as well.
That's right. Yeah. And that was a big deal. So, usually you'd see some positivity behind that. But as I remember from the merge back in 2022, it was like September 15th, 2022. There was like an initial surge of positivity and everyone's celebrating the big move. And then prices severely underperformed for the next 2 weeks. And that was enough to have people completely flip the script and write off Ethereum and say, oh my God, I don't believe in ETH at all. I knew this was a scam. This merge stuff, you guys got me so hyped for it. And it was like, well, it went exactly as expected. It was a success, but you complain about it simply because the immediate price action was negative. And that's just how crypto traders think, especially these days.
Yeah. That's interesting though. But anything that enhances a network, I think it's a positive. I mean, fundamentally, it's a positive.
Yeah, if a planned enhancement is on the schedule and it happens and nothing goes wrong, that should be worth celebrating for long-term investors because it means your long-term investment just got stronger and more innovated and more up to date with what the present day expects out of a cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
So we also have XRP here. I threw it in. It's sitting slightly bearish right now as well. I presume it's because the price hasn't done anything special lately. And a lot more eyes are on Bitcoin. So it's kind of taken away some of the glow from the other top caps right now, except for Litecoin, which, by the way, I want to show that because I know we've talked about it, Andy, in the past.
Absolutely, yes.
So let me just switch to Litecoin here. I'll just have it by itself. So Litecoin had this huge jump up. This was maybe 24 hours ago because these are all just four-hour candles. I can make it a little more zoomed out here. We'll just do the last month. So here's the last month. Each red candle is now 1 day. You can see the positivity followed by a bunch of negativity. And then following these 2 days of negativity, oh, what do you know? We see a big jump. And that's just how it often goes. People write it off and suddenly we see that. That's what we could see for Ethereum, not to make bold predictions, but it's possible. And now we're kind of sitting back in neutral territory, but you can see Ethereum, Litecoin that is still trying to rally and might surpass that, what is it, around a $93, $94 resistance here. And that could really open the floodgates for $100 plus pretty soon.
Yeah. I think it was sitting at, what was it, 80 or was it 81 before it did that straight line?
Yep, exactly right. Right here at 81 was the bottom, and then just jumped all the way to 93-ish or so.
Yeah.
So
well, Litecoin does nothing for a very long time, and then every now and then you'll get this crazy spike.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the nature of the Lightning Network. For whatever reason, it's the second oldest cryptocurrency out there, and people often forget about it. And then all of a sudden it gives you a reason to claw back into it. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I also just wanted to point out, earlier today, my time, for you it's already tomorrow, but there was an FOMC meeting. We've talked about those before on this call. Jerome Powell was essentially threatened by Trump. Trump was saying that he didn't deserve to be in the head seat for the FOMC and the Fed anymore. And Jerome Powell basically today proved that he's not going to cave to that pressure that Trump gave him. The president clearly wanted interest rates to be dropped because that's going to make the stock market rise and the economy look a lot better, despite his tariffs doing whatever they can to make it look worse. So I think Trump was really hoping the tariffs would, I wouldn't say he wanted to cause stock market havoc, but as a result of it, he was hoping that he could get some interest rate cuts and then really have a lot of control. But that did not happen. It was the expected outcome. I actually wrote about it yesterday in an article for anyone who wants to check it out here. You can see here, I just had a short update today. Trump foiled, Powell keeps interest rates level as crypto mildly sinks. It's obviously started to rise once again after that post. But yesterday, I put, if I can find it, FOMC, there it is. So I just had this highlighted about the net inflows for Bitcoin ETFs, because up until the day before, which was a little bit negative, you can see just tons and tons of money being moved in. Since April 16th, $5.13 billion in net inflows moved into Bitcoin ETFs. And it clearly showed that institutionals didn't really care what was going on with the FOMC. They were not nervous. Yes, there was maybe a slight profit take going into the final day, but for the past 3 weeks, just more and more money moving in, and that's a great sign for the long term. You can see how correlated these inflows and outflows are to price. So I thought that was a very good sign.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing. That's good. That's really good.
Oh, here. So this was the more comprehensive FOMC article I wrote, and it's just talks about the correlation between crypto and the S&P, which is still quite high. We also see mentions of interest rate cuts here in blue versus interest rate hikes over the past 2 years. And you can see very clearly how people were hoping and waiting for those hikes that eventually happened in 2023. And then people were fearful of cuts in 2024, but they never happened. And as a result of them not happening, we just blasted off at the end of 2024. And obviously people were excited about Trump getting elected because he was so pro crypto. And it's just been, you can see how much this topic can really impact markets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But
Wow.
yeah, those are kind of my main talking points for today. Is there anything else you wanted me to take a quick look at before we wrap up the call?
No, I think we covered it pretty well today. I think we lots happened in the last 24 hours. Some very interesting headlines.
Yeah.
I guess it was it is what it is. I mean, the markets are still volatile. They're still there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening. You've got some major forces, so the shifting sentiment. Yeah. You have something up here that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was just while you were talking, I was checking out
Mhm.
which tokens are getting the highest rises in discussion right now. And what do you
Mhm.
know? Litecoin at number 1, Ethereum at number 2. So,
Mm.
and Tether at number 3, which is interesting. So that's actually a good sign, because that means the crowd is considering liquidating some of their assets. Retail crowd, when they get bearish, they talk more about Tether or something related to a scandal, but there isn't anything too crazy out there. So it looks like there's a lot of, based on the ratio, so you can see Litecoin and its positive, neutral, and negative sentiment here. That's actually a pretty big bar worth of negative sentiment. Same with Ethereum. So it looks like after Litecoin corrected and Ethereum has continued to underperform, quite a bit of bearishness, along with Tether being talked about here at number 3. That's a good sign that we might finally claw ourselves over 100K in the near future.
And on
For
that
Bitcoin,
note,
that
I
is.
think I think that's a great that's great insight. And on that note, I think we're pretty much on time, and fantastic call today. Is there
Great stuff.
anything you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so. It's just remember that the tariffs haven't gone away, and we can get some news that completely throw crypto into a loop again, because it's still very much correlated with stock markets, whether we like it or not. So be safe out there and understand that your strategy may make sense right this second, but if we suddenly get some news, China and the US hate each other even more tomorrow, that can cause a whole lot of havoc. So just be a little more conservative than you normally would is my suggestion, because of the fact that we have macroeconomic distractions in the background right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, as they say, that there's never a dull moment in crypto. And let's not forget, we've got India and Pakistan who are shooting each other right now.
Yeah,
So
scary
that's
stuff.
yeah. So I do have one last announcement. So we have a new team member who's joined us, and from the next call onwards, we every now and then. So his name's Nicholas. Nicholas might jump in, and we might have a three-way call. We might have, sometimes he might jump in instead of me, and so moving forward, we'll have two members on our side who's going to be on this call with you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to speaking with Nicholas. He told me a little bit about that offline, and anyone from the team that wants to chat markets, I'm game.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a massive fan of Santiment. He uses it every day. And he provides me with updates using on-chain metrics, which is fantastic.
That'll make it even easier if he's already familiar with how our metrics work. So looking forward to it.
Okay, well, you have a great evening, and congratulations on the move. I'd like to know which time zone you're on the next time we chat offline.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. So have a great day, have a great evening, and take care.
Bye, guys.
See you later.